Hopefully you had a pretty good outing in week 2. And regardless if you did or you didn't, there's probably some areas on your bench or maybe even in your starting lineup that you kind of want to get better. That's what the waiver wire is for, hopefully to improve or to upon starters or even guys on your bench. Maybe grab guys you think potentially could bust out later in the season. So this is the waiver wire show. What's crackalackin'? I'm Broshmo. Just in case you did not know so, go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. Go ahead and do that. That would be awesome. It really helps the video out a ton, and I do appreciate it. Also, keep in mind when it comes to these waiver wire pickups, I only use guys that are owned in less than 50% of leagues. So some of y'all that are in like smaller, like 16 or a 6-team league, you probably have better guys available. So yeah, let's just go ahead. Let's get into the nitty gritty. We're going to start with the quarterback position. And Joe Burrow, he's available in 45.1% of leagues. I know he threw like 63 times, but he had a decent showing despite the lack of an offensive line. He's got a much better matchup, you would think, against Philly, but they have only allowed the 14th most points to quarterbacks. So that is to be noted. But I mean, I threw this statistic out earlier, and typically quarterbacks that are the first overall pick in their draft, their rookie season, they're quarterback 12s. So I'm not saying you need to start them, but just someone to keep in mind there. And then I got Ryan Tannehill here. He is available in 34.5% of leagues. He's got a pretty darn decent matchup against the Minnesota Vikings. We all know that the youth and the inexperience and ineffectiveness of their corners right now. You would think Tannehill, he could just smash and take advantage of that. They've allowed their 21st against opposing quarterbacks. So, and I mean, Tannehill's been airing it out a lot, like recently, like just this last game. He threw it. Well, great, it was only 24 times, but 4 touchdowns, man. I don't expect the Vikings to be in this game that much, but I think Tannehill, if you need a start this week, I mean, I don't know what quarterback you would be lacking. There's really no injuries to the quarterback position. Jimmy G, RIP. But I think he's actually going to be playing this week. But yeah, injuries, always got to keep an eye on that. Yeah, and I mean, he might be someone nice to stash on your bench for later. But Gardner Minshew has a very juicy matchup if you hate maybe your quarterback's matchup. He's got the Dolphins. They're 31st against opposing quarterbacks. Gardner Minshew, he has been slinging it. Matter of fact, let me take a look at something, because he took a lot more chances downfield last game. I mean, he threw 45 times. It was a close game against the Titans. Ended up going with 3 touchdowns. But the amount of times he threw downfield, his throws that were 20 yards or more, was solid. Yeah, he took 5 shots downfield for 20 yards or more. And dude's super effective when doing so. He has 2 touchdowns when doing it. So if anything, this is the defense to do it against. Fortunately, as a Dolphins fan, it hurts to say, but facts are facts. If you got a bad matchup this week, a really bad matchup that you're not sure of, Minshew, not a bad start. And excuse me. And Baker Mayfield's a pretty good start too, because Washington, they're 28th against opposing quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield, I talked about him having the potential breakout game after week 1. He had it last week, so Baker, I didn't include him here, but he might be a fine start as well. He's owned in 27% of leagues. Let's go to the running back position. Darrell Henderson's going to lead the list off here. He's owned in 44.6% of leagues, and the dude was just extremely efficient. Like, he had 5 broken tackles, touchdown, 2 receptions. He had 12 carries. He was the more efficient back. I think definitely you want to monitor Cam Akers' status, because that would hurt Darrell Henderson a ton. But I think he's as long as Cam Akers is out, he probably might assume the most touches in that backfield over Malcolm Brown. And then Jerick McKinnon, dude, injuries aplenty in the backfield. It's already said Raheem Mostert, he's not going to be starting this week. So if you need his backup, essentially his handcuff, you would think Tevin Coleman, but he's out too, or he's doubtful for the game. Probably out though. Then McKinnon, he was big play, man. The dude is just a freaking burner. Like, what, he only had 3 carries, 77 yards. Ridiculous. I know it was against the Jets, but you know, the Giants, they don't pose a much better matchup. They're actually 11th when against opposing running backs, which is interesting, but still, I think he's a worthy start this week if you need to. I've been screaming for Devontae Freeman for probably since week 1, but I think he's a good pickup, especially now with the Giants. They might be looking at him. Like, as injuries start going down, like, his name becomes hotter and hotter, and if you have room on your bench, he's not a bad stash. Mike Davis is going to probably be the most popular pickup this week. I mean, the dude came in and just, after Christian McCaffrey went down, obviously, but assuming he takes the lead role, like, if he's the running back 1 there, like, not a committee, and that's very, very interesting. He had, let me check this real quick, because he was actually very involved in the passing game as well. Where art thou? Here we are. Yeah, man, he had 8 targets. He turned that into 8 receptions for 74 yards. I mean, I know they started running Curtis Samuel more and more, which was interesting, but I think Mike Davis honestly should get some of the work. They even threw Jeremy Chin in there, which is wild. But yeah, I think Mike Davis, he's got a lot of upside here. He could be a potential, like, running back 1, or, like, I'm just saying it's very interesting. Guy I did not include because Dolphins, you know, those guys only got so much upside, and we'll talk about that later. But Myles Gaskin, dude, solid. He played 64% of the Dolphin snaps. I know he was tied in carries at 7, which is not that impressive, but he was very involved in the passing game, which is something you like to see. He had 6 receptions on 7 targets, so honestly, not a bad flex option. The Dolphins are always going to be in a dire situation. They're always going to probably be playing from behind, at least for the first part of the season. So I think he's a very worthy, a very interesting pickup, and I probably should have included him here too. But looking at wide receivers, Mike Williams leading off the list, owned in 49.5% of leagues, so he just barely made the cut here. I know he had 4 targets, only turned that into 2 receptions for 14 yards. But keep in mind, one of the incompletions was an overthrow on oh my gosh, Justin Herbert's part, which we don't even know he's going to be the starter. I mean, it sounds like if Tyrod's good to go, he will be the starter. So I don't. That's just all. That all is just interesting. Another name, Corey Davis, owned in 35.6% of leagues. Actually, as of this morning, he's jumped up to 46.5% of leagues. So, hot commodity, as long as AJ Brown's out, man, I think Corey Davis is going to be a hot name, especially against Minnesota. They're 31st against opposing wide receivers. So, just putting that out there. Russell Gage, he is the 3rd option, but he did see 9 targets last week for an Atlanta team that's probably playing from behind. So, I think he poses an interesting maybe flex option, or if you're in like a very wide receiver heavy league. Keelan Cole, he has 12 targets through 2 weeks. He's kind of the he's Gardner Minshew's like go-to, like if he needs to dump it off. But he's been very successful around the middle, and I mean, he popped off in week 1 for a 22-yard touchdown. He's just been very efficient, and again, I'm just giving you some guys that you might eventually need when these buys start coming up. Darnell Mooney is a guy that I'm just very, very high on. He saw as they use Anthony Miller more and more in the slot. Darnell Mooney, he comes in, he'll occasionally play the slot. He even had a snap in the backfield, but he's playing primarily the other side of Allen Robinson. And the dude's just a very, very good playmaker. He's electric with the ball in his hands. I mean, let's go to this Birds game. I know he took one snap in the backfield, but didn't do anything with it. But dude, 3 receptions, 36 yards. He had a touchdown. That was on 3 targets. I mean, that was more than Allen Robinson did with his 9 targets. And I mean, even Anthony Miller, he had 3 targets, but couldn't get a reception. So Darnell Mooney, I think, is an interesting name going forward, and just one you should be aware of. There is Traquan Smith. He's probably going to be popular with Mike Williams still out. Currently, he's owned in 23.8% of leagues. And he's got a pretty, I guess, on paper, it's a decent matchup against the Packers, which they're 27th against opposing wide receivers. But also keep in mind that might be a shootout if they're trying to keep up with the Packers. So that's a bit interesting. So maybe that's a guy I just want to put his name out there. Let's go ahead to the tight end position, because this is the toughest one to get right. You know, you don't have like a Travis Kelce, Darren Waller. I mean, even Kittle right now. It's like, well, what's Kittle doing on my bench? You know, but we're gonna start with Mike Gesicki. He's owned in 47.7% of leagues, so majority of leagues he is owned. And that has jumped to 53.2 since this morning. So people are picking them up some Gesicki, which is good because Jacksonville is a really good matchup. They're 30th against opposing tight ends. So just something you should probably be aware of. Jonnu Smith, he at the time was 40.3. He's jumped up to 51.5% as far as being owned in leagues. He's in a so-so matchup with Minnesota. They are 14th against opposing tight ends because Eric Hendricks, pretty solid in coverage. But dude, last week, man, getting only on 5 targets, he turned that to 4 receptions for 84 yards, 2 touchdowns. He has 3 touchdowns through 2 weeks. He's a solid get, man. He's a solid get at a position that's so hard to get right. I think he's worthy of a roster spot. You got Jordan Reed, who at this time is, I know he's owned in, well, at the time he was at 6.7% of leagues. Now he is owned in only 9.3% of leagues. Tough matchup, I guess, against the Giants. They're 3rd against opposing tight ends, but the dude saw 8 targets, 7 receptions for 50 yards, 2 touchdowns. Especially if they end up starting Mullins this week. I think they'll go to the tight end a lot, which should increase his value. The surprise one here, Dalton Schultz. I almost talked myself into putting him on the list last week because I was like, you know what, Dak likes targeting the tight end in this offense. But I was like, nah, man, the dude had 2 drops last week. Forget that. Comes out, 10 targets, 9 receptions, 88 yards, and a touchdown. So I'm just saying that type of production, that type of opportunity is well worth it. And then we got Mo Ali Cox. Oh, you would say probably a breakout performance, but I'm still in the wait and see. Because it was 5 targets for 5 receptions. And I mean, they were facing Minnesota. I know he's got a good matchup this week against the Jets. They're looking, it was 6 targets, 5 receptions for 111 yards. But I know they're looking for someone to step up in Doyle's absence. I guess it could be him. We'll see. I think he's a bit more risky than he's a bit more risky than some of the other guys on this list. So we'll see. We'll see. Especially if Doyle does end up like coming back. And then actually, Jordan Atkins is starting to become a hot riser. Before we exit out the video, Jordan Atkins is becoming a very, very hot riser. Indeed. I mean, he had a pretty solid performance. 7 targets. Turned that into 7 receptions for 55 yards for the Texans. I don't know if they're going to really be going to their tight end a ton. I mean, he had a solid, like, his opener against Kansas City wasn't, like, he got the touchdown, but it was only on 2 targets. Yeah, you don't want to bank on that, but the last game was very encouraging. It might be a guy you want to roster if you feel deep, or if you feel you need a second tight end on the roster. But anyway, that's all I got for you. That's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing. I'm gonna go get some allergy medicine because I feel stuffy as heck. But until next time, you be easy, my friend. Later.